Group Sales and Marketing and General Manager of Intel World Ahead Program at Intel Corporation. During his 36 years with Intel, Davis has worked in senior engineering, marketing, sales, and management positions as Director of Marketing for the Mobile Computing Group and Consumer Desktop Products Group, and General Manager of Intel Asia Pacific Region. Please welcome John Davis.
Bonjour, salam alaikum. What I want to do is, first of all, I thought yesterday was a wonderful day. A lot of energy in the room. We had some excellent meetings here, and I want to try and share with you where we're going as a company and what opportunities that can create for the region, for software developers, for innovators, and various different other areas, how we'll work together to create the jobs in the area. So first I want to tell you a little bit about Intel, and I'll bring out each time where I think there's opportunities to develop and create around the ecosystem. So this was our plan coming into 2014. If you look at our products, we said in the server business, it was going to be about big data and going faster. You look at Internet of Things, there's more and more data. You look at oil exploration, healthcare, education, running businesses, tremendous amounts of data. We want to do more of that. In the PC, it was bring some new innovative form factors. Windows 8 was coming out, Touch was coming out, bring those two-in-ones, much lighter, thinner, flexible, multiple type of capability computers, and bring some new capabilities. I'll talk more about those. And I think that's happening. In tablets, Intel was fairly slow in tablets over the last 2 years. We said we needed to do 40 million tablets this year. We'll do more than that. And it'll actually make us behind Apple, the second largest supplier of silicon into tablets going out of this year. And obviously we like to be at the lead of things. And then in the leading stuff, to get ahead of some of the new trends, the innovation, the disruption we spoke about yesterday. And these are things like 4G modems, LTE modems, going into many of the phones like Samsung. The Galileo and the Edison board, the developers boards for robotics and Internet of Things, get into the wearables and lots of other areas so we can have products that we can get out there that basically are about disruption and where people can innovate and get on the next waves of value in the IT marketplace. So this is really where we went as a company, and we've just scored how we did on that. Now, the big disruptive technologies, I mean, you'll know about the PCs and the servers and the tablets and the phones, so I won't spend time on those, but some of the areas that people are working on very strongly are wearables. Intel's brought out products in wearables, and some of these are like jewelry wearables, some of these are very much on the healthcare wearables, measurables in that. Internet of Things, so you can connect machines, connect data, do all sorts of value added around saving energy, making traffic more efficient, security, safety, business productivity, maintenance. And then the kind of makers areas where we work with developers boards to give them out to universities and colleges and tech areas and let them develop their own capabilities around these. So the wearables, these are some of the things we show at the fashion weeks, but it isn't just about wearables for watches and jewelries. A lot of this is, you're seeing a tremendous amount in the healthcare marketplace. We're working on things like heart rate monitoring, various different areas there, carbon monoxide sensors in places like Peru where they have gas stoves in small homes, and many different areas that are aimed at healthcare. And locally, they're all different, and locally there's value added around each of them. Now on the developers area, the other one is, I think many of you have seen this board. We have a version called Galileo, version called Edison. It's a developers board. We've put a number of these in local universities now in Jordan, and so they're here. The students are working on these, some of the developers, and we had a great conversation yesterday with USAID about, this is wonderful, but make it much, much bigger. Get a lot more of these here. There was a great conversation, and this is what we're going to do. So get a lot more of these in the country. That will open up the opportunity for much, much more of the younger people and the developers. So if you look at the next areas, this is an area that we formed a group inside Intel on Internet of Things about a year ago, and we looked at all of the stuff we were touching about machines and various different areas. For many years we'd worked with engine makers for airplanes, for example, where they look at the when it needs maintenance. But that applies to air conditioners, that applies to small machines, it applies to many different things. There's home control, and this is an area that we put a tremendous amount in. It's a smaller piece of our business. It's about $2 billion, so it's about 4% of our business today, but it's growing very, very fast. And so you can see the adoption and the usage in the marketplace today, and that's why, you know, these Edisons, these Galileos, people are picking these up more and more and more. I'll show you a couple of examples of that. The other is making everything smart. Big waves going on around the world. You'll see a lot of this in the areas. Dubai is one of the leaders for this in terms of smart cities. People like Rio de Janeiro in Brazil is a wonderful example because they had the World Cup there, they've got the Olympic Games, they've been very concerned about the IT and the data flow. And as you start seeing cities around the region wanting to lead in terms of smart and traffic and energy efficiency and control, there's many programs there. There's programs on smart buildings. I've seen programs where they've talked about how a building can save $1 million a year in terms of energy. I showed some examples of that yesterday in the USAID IoT session. And in smart homes, how you can monitor the home, how you can see the kids are safe, how you can turn the energy off, and do a lot of that with cell phones. So these are the kind of areas that people are focusing on, and each of them has enormous opportunity for software developers and integrators and makers and innovators to do what's needed locally in their country, in Jordan and in the region, and then take some of that expertise and maybe take it to other countries and export that. So this is an area that we'll put a lot of effort in. If you look inside Intel, there's an enormous piece of our company is on data center. Remember 15 years ago, most of the servers didn't run on us. Today, most of the data center does. And so the things we're working on there is enabling cloud. Cloud is everywhere in all of these programs. If you're looking at enabling cloud, looking at security of cloud, looking at data analytics. There's enormous amounts of data. How can you manage that easily? How can you make business decisions very quickly on enormous amounts of data? And the other area is accelerating performance. In this region, high-performance computing is used in energy exploration. It's used in energy management, reservoir modeling. They have lots of CPUs in racks and clusters. You see it in weather forecasting. You see it in financial modeling. You see it in many different areas. The universities are big users of this. And to make that cheaper and more performance. Someone was speaking yesterday about, Eric Schmidt actually, about modeling genomes. I used to run this area about 5 years ago, and what we realized in there is you could do things in hours and days that used to take many, many years in doing genomic modeling simply because there's a lot more power in these computers today. Massive implications in healthcare. So try and open up the opportunities around all of this for developers and local integrators. Now, if you look at the PC and client area, this is what the consumers use, what the businesses use. This really has been a year that after many people said, look, the PC is getting old, it's getting boring, not much change is happening. You look at this, there's been the most amazing changes on every single device coming into this year. All-in-one form factors have been everywhere. There have been portable versions of this. The notebooks have moved to touch. They've moved to two-in-ones. They've moved to, you know, I take my notebook and it becomes a tablet. You've had the Windows 8 Touch on these. So that's been a tremendous area. Tablets have got cheaper. Tremendous amounts of these in the 7-inch form factor, in the 10-inch form factor. Prices have come down dramatically. You've had choices of Android on tablets for a long time. I've seen some fantastic Windows 8.1 tablets, just some amazing ones. And people look at prices of these. Just a week ago, in Walmart's in USA, a Windows 8.1 10-inch tablet, 2-in-1 keyboard was $175 in retail. I was like, oh, that is getting down to the kind of price point. It gets amazing. This is for Christmas. The phones have moved like tremendously. The adoption, the big push there is to the smartphone. You'll see all sorts of areas on high-performance computing. And a number of these very, very tiny PCs, you'll see form factors as big as your hand that's actually a computer, barely bigger than that board. I think I've got one of them in that case there, Ruler. We'll should have had that on stage. But many, many tiny little form factors, yeah. Not the smallest one, that's not announced, but the slightly bigger one that is announced. Okay? Yeah. No, the other one. No, we're not going to announce that here. This is a computer, a full-fledged computer. I can put my biggest CPU in it, the smallest. You'll see these in digital home. You'll see these in many different areas, and it's everything you can do with a computer. So that is one form factor, and I think you can see there's going to be a lot smaller ones of those coming along. Biggest PC CPU can go in that smallest one. That opens up. Some of these are secure. You bolt them behind the monitor. You can bolt them to the wall because they're so small. But they have every capability and security and manageability and asset tracking of the big enterprise large form factor computers. So this is moving everywhere. That creates an opportunity for developers. And I'll try and bring some of those out as we go through. This is one of them. We've been told for years, look, we have so many wires and so many dongles and so much clutter that we're going in more and more and more into the client experience, removing the wires, charging on the table, remote different areas, and the whole PC is going to what we call human interface and sensing, and the cell phones led this. The cell phones led this dramatically, and it's about voice, and it's about touch, and it's about gesture, and it's about imaging, and all of those factors come more and more and more into the computer, those human interface, those senses. You'll see next year PCs, tablets with two cameras put together, a 3D camera, and I could take that 3D camera and I could look at the front row of the audience and I could tell you your pulse rate right now. It's so accurate in what it does. Just imagine what you could do with that from an applications point of view. People tell me I need to look at PCs and tablets for people that have disabilities. Well, if you have touch and voice and gesture and image, you have a lot more ways of talking to the computer, interfacing. There's a lot of abilities there that can be created for people that couldn't use computers historically or had more difficulties. So those areas are there for developers. We have a program for software developers. These are called RealSense Developers Kits, RealSense Developer Kit. They're available, they're out there, and they're for developing the human interface. So we're encouraging colleges, universities, software developers, small companies to move in that area. Now, one of the areas I spend time on as a broadband commissioner for ITU is reaching more people. You'll find in countries that some people have access to technology. I go to countries where most people don't. And this is really critical. So we spend a lot of time in this. This is the World Ahead program. We work with countries on obviously the products, but we spend a lot of time on connectivity. I spent a big effort with ITU and the telecoms on prepaid broadband. Get the cost down so you can buy it by the dollar, by the penny, by the dinar in there. And it's really good for low incomes, university students that have access on hotspots but need broadband wherever they move and go. So the dongles, and this has been an enormous wave of bringing more affordable. We work with training. Many, many teachers have been trained around the world in countries. That 12 million number is old. It's probably much bigger than that now. What's interesting is every teacher in Jordan has been through Intel Teach. There's 600,000 teachers who've been through Intel Teach, and many in the region. I'll show you those numbers. And it means you're adopting the technology and education, but doing it right, not just by buying computers, but by training the teachers to use them properly in the classroom. And that's critical. Do a lot of work on content and publishing and areas. And the opportunity there is lots of tools for software developers and publishers and the content people to bring this to the PC, to the tablet, to the phone, and bring it across all the platforms. So it's HTML5, runs on all of the various operating systems. So that brings in another opportunity as well for developers. Everyone knows that broadband helps economics. 10% more broadband can be 1 to 2 points of GDP, but it can also be an enormous part of jobs. And we found in many countries and areas that some of the biggest employment gains were around more people can access broadband. They can invent more things, they can do more things. These are just some statistics, and it also helps education quality. So we spend a lot of time working on connectivity, working with ministers of technology, working with telecoms, because that's absolutely critical. And there's some great programs in the region on that. This is the way I think about this, on bringing broadband for everyone. And what you'll find is from the top, you have a business model. 2 billion can afford $30 a month. The third billion can afford $1 at a time in prepaying, or dinner at a time. You bring the prepay. That goes down to the third or fourth billion. It means in the world, there's about half the people that can't afford. So you have to push down the price of the platforms, push down the price of broadband, but that doesn't take you everywhere. You're seeing mobile phones come into this, people doing mobile payments, you're seeing children learning to read and write on phones. I'm seeing these used in Africa for healthcare, because there's many phones there, and different programs. That pushes down, again, to more and more people. And then you have the people that need help from the bottom up. These are like the free hotspots, these are the shared access, these are the telecenters. Many countries use the Universal Service Fund, phone tax as a subsidy for the lower income people. I've seen the spectrum fees used for that. And that's where you need some help, where government works with private industry to try and bring technology, not just to the people that can afford it, but to the people that need it and want it and can't afford it, from the bottoms up. So business model down, government cooperations and help for the lower incomes from the bottom. And programs are around on all of these. So this is critical to bring more and more people into the internet economy, because very often the people that need it the most can afford it the least. They need government services too. They need education too. And so this is a big, big push for us. And this is where I spend most of my time, on this chart there. Broadband plans. I won't talk about that in the area, because I think you've got some very, very good broadband plans, bringing out the broadband, bringing out the 3G, bringing out the 4G, the fiber, the reaching the villages. In that area, we spend a lot of time talking about these, and recently most countries have adopted some pretty aggressive and good broadband plans. It's a measure of the need in government, a measure of the desire of government to connect more and more people. So that I feel pretty good about in the region. There's areas that have done Universal Service Fund that have reached lower incomes. People like Portugal used it for every student to get a laptop 6 years ago. People like Turkey, it's the biggest single education program I've seen in the world in terms of numbers and volumes. And then in places like Colombia, it's focused on the low incomes, the low income people. And so we do a lot of programs all around the world on this, with governments to reach more and more people. And this is an area that we have good conversations here and focus with your leaders on reaching more and more people. If you look at the biggest area that we probably put enabling in areas, it's on education. And some of you see this through teacher training, but I want to spend a few minutes and show you where it is, because we're going to add some pieces to this that are critical for developers. So you'll see our commitment. It's not just in devices or teacher training, it's across the whole solutions, the integration, the content, all of those areas. And I want to give you a flavor for how that's going to work. Historically, you would have known Intel in the training teachers, the deploying in classrooms, big areas. That's where we spent most of our time, programs around the world. We probably spend, in the whole of this in our corporate affairs, about $100 million a year in terms of education, enabling, and philanthropy there. And this is where teacher trains, units in classrooms, etc. So education excellence, the younger. What we're doing more of, and we're making bigger efforts, is in the science. what we find is in the science fairs, the 16, 17-year-olds are making decisions. Do I go into medicine? Do I go in mathematics? Do I go in technology? Do I go in engineering? And it's the time at which a lot of students drop out from math and science. They want to do something else. And you find this particularly amongst the 16 and 17-year-old girls. Oh, it's math and science is boring, I don't want to do that. So what we've done is made these programs big and capable. We've touched a tremendous number of students around the region, and what we see every year is the numbers grow. It touched 7 million students worldwide last year. 7 million. You have your regional contests, your national contests. People from Jordan, people from Egypt, people from Saudi, people from Kuwait have all gone to the US. They've won prizes. And this has been, last year, 7 million students, 50% boys, 50% girls, all interested. And you want to see some of the programs they do. The winners there of these, about half of the winners that win scholarships in US get their inventions patented in their names. They've invented them. They make errors. So that's a big area, but we want to bring more of that in with developers, boards, other areas, because it's the youth that are going to drive the adoption of technology, the creation of the local jobs and the value. And that's the toughest thing I see globally. 30% unemployment in many countries in the 19 to 29-year-olds. How can we do more of that? And yet in many countries I see, oh, there's not enough skills in mathematics and sciences and medicine. So I want to bring that excitement, that capability together. And the other area is on entrepreneurship, where comments I made yesterday about venture capital, about how businesses work with universities to make sure that the work going on there is relevant for future needs of industry and future creation of technologies in the marketplace. And now the venture capital comes in and can fund them and keep funding people, because not every invention, every venture capital works the first time. In fact, for every one that works, probably 9 don't. So you need to encourage people. Keep trying again. It's okay to try again. It's okay to fail. You're experienced now. You'll do better next time. And this is the way venture capital works. So we're going to do a lot of work along those lines. And what we want to do in the area is empower 1 million Arab citizens into this area over time. Let's look at some numbers and see where this can go and what can happen. In the region, 12 countries. In the MENA region, so Middle East, North Africa, 1.5 million teachers trained in the last 10 years. So that's a nice number, but there's a lot more untrained. Jordan's the role model. Every teacher has been through this. Entrepreneur programs, 300,000 youth in the last 10 years have been through this. Science fairs, 250,000 students from 13 countries have competed in the region in that time period. Entrepreneurs, universities, we've done 20 multi-core labs trained, and a lot of education transformation engagements. And what we're trying to do here is make that innovation initiative, make it bigger, get people more involved with us. The comments I made about USAID with us yesterday, more of these Galileo boards, let's get them into colleges, let's work these programs with partners and try and use them, not just to academic education, but a job creation and value added, which is the theme of this wonderful event you've got here. So that's really an area that I think a lot of great capabilities are in place. Many people don't know they exist. Not enough of the industry cooperates together on this. Microsoft has amazing programs on this. Cisco has great academies. Most of the people I talk to, and we spoke about how we can do more working together with local companies, with NGOs, with the funders of this to make this a bigger program. We've had great conversations with the ministries about this, about doing more in the countries to create that innovation in that entrepreneur area. So that really is where I think we can make a difference. And it's a difference made together with industry, universities, ministries, people, venture capital, many, many different areas. I want to show a few opportunities here. These are some areas that just our people touch locally. These go from education, massive programs in education, massive programs in enterprise and security and manageability. You look at areas on oil exploration, look at areas with banks, with airlines, with transportation, with agriculture, many, many different areas. This is areas that we're a chip supplier and an enabler, but we end up talking to all of these customers, which is our customers' customers, about needs there, see what they need, and work with them to try and shape the technology in these areas. These are all in these areas, IoT roadshows, many of the leading IT companies, people like Emirates are just absolute leaders in this, people like the airlines, so your Royal Jordanian, other airlines, Egypt Airlines, these are big, big users of IT, and they tell us, please do this for your technology, make it this way, help us there. What this does, though, is it creates a local set of opportunities as well for developers, for innovators, not just for the big companies, but for the people that are localizing this and doing it for their people. So many, many different opportunities, and we see these growing and growing and growing as ICT gets adopted by more businesses, more users, consumers, and they start using this to bring more and more value to their lives and to their businesses. So this is just a sampling of some of the areas we end up talking to, we end up touching, programs that our biz dev managers end up getting involved in. Some of the work, we've been doing tremendous amounts of startup work in terms of pilots in the last few months on smart cities. This is areas where you're looking at people putting Wi-Fi cameras for security. Then they realize, oh, we can manage the traffic lights with these. Oh, we can get the traffic flowing. I spent a lot of time with mass transportation areas, and they realize we can have linkages between the bus and the underground and the traffic flow, etc. But then it's about energy, and it's about energy consumption. It's about information to people in different areas. You'll find Dubai is one of the leading cities around that, so in this region. But I think this is going to be adopted by more and more and more cities, and it's going to need more and more developers applying technology. And I showed this yesterday in the OT. It's not just devices, it's cloud, it's analytics, it's managing enormous amounts of data, and again, more and more opportunities for people to add value locally. I think what it really does is it boils down to this area. You know, you've got technology, there's enormous amounts of opportunities for this. The content is local. You need content in your language, in your culture. That's going to be heavily driven by local developers. That's the local opportunity. We spoke a lot in Intel and with some of our partners, big software companies, about doing more developers forums in the region, how you do a workshop, enable it so you bring the tools, the capabilities for the local people to develop software there. Try and drive this in, that innovation, that what we call, in Intel, we call it the Intel Innovation Initiative. What it is the education, the innovation, the entrepreneur area, and really have that as our logo and focus for what we try and work with the region on going forward, listen and evolve that for what the needs are, and then try and use that to create more and more local jobs capability, because that's good for the region, it's good for the IT industry, it's good for the businesses, it's good for the people. It's a win-win-win for everyone. So I think this really is our theme going forward, what we want to do going forward. And from an Intel perspective, we want to work with the local companies, want to work with you, your ministries, your governments, and try and really make this what it needs to be for the people of your region. Thank you so much. Shukran.